Hey everyone, KVUE Photojournalist Andrew Sanchez here, and today we have a very special guest here to talk about his new documentary, Brothers of Destruction, debuting October 29th at the Austin Film Festival. From Death Valley and residing in Austin, Texas, the Phenom, the American Badass, the Dead Man, The Undertaker. Undertaker, thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me, and thank you for that introduction, man. That was I was starting to feel pretty good, like I might need to lace the boots up one more time.
Well, I'm going to have to put my wrestling fandom to good use, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, before we get to the documentary, I need to ask you this. It's been about 6 months since you announced your retirement from in-ring competition. How has the life of The Undertaker been since the announcement of your retirement?
Well, that's where, Vince and I have a little bit of a disagreement there. Vince's motto is never say never. But to answer your question, no, retired life is good. It's kind of weird right now because this is normally the time that I'd be getting ready for WrestleMania. So I would be in full on in camp trying to get in shape to have a Mania match. So my day's freed up. Fortunately, my she's in school. So, I'm just hanging out, getting ready to go hunting soon enough. Deer season starts here next week.
Well, let's talk Brothers of Destruction. Before we get into the meat of it, let's go all the way back to the beginning of your career. When you debuted in 1990, around that time, WWE had very cartoon characters like trash men and hockey players. When you were presented the idea of The Undertaker, were you ever worried that this character may not even work?
Look, I was just so happy that I wasn't the Eggman coming out of the giant egg that they were also promoting at the same time. And people think I joke about that, but I'm being completely serious. There was this huge promotion involving this giant egg. And I just knew every day I was going to get the call from Vince saying that I was going to be coming out of this egg and I was going to need to shave my head and my eyebrows and I was going to be Eggman. So when I heard Undertaker, although I had no clue what that meant, I knew what an Undertaker was, but as a character, I had no clue what his vision was. I was like, yeah, I'm definitely the Undertaker because Undertaker's not Eggman, and I'm good with it. So I was extremely excited.
How long did it take you to know the fans had accepted the Undertaker as a credible character and a legitimate threat?
I think it kind of took off right away, but I knew so I debuted in November 22nd of 1990. So that was at Survivor Series. So the following year, 1991 Survivor Series, I was wrestling Hulk Hogan for the World Championship. So that's a really fast turnaround to go from a debut to winning the World Heavyweight title. And strangely enough, it was even more telling that the fans were actually turning me to a good guy without any effort of my own. They were so enthralled with that character and the mystique of it, I guess. I think everybody's got a little dark side to their personality. And I think my character kind of brought that out of people. That was one of the things that I remember most about the night that I beat Hogan it was like 60-40 my way as far as the fan reaction, and then when I won, the place was like, they went crazy. So I would say, yeah, it was Survivor Series 91. I knew that I had arrived.
And just 7 years after you debuted, the WWE decided to add a family member, your little brother Kane. With all the work that you put into the Undertaker character, did you ever feel like you had to put even more work into the character of Kane?
No, I no clue at that point. I was so focused in what I was doing and keeping what I was doing fresh until I met Kane, And, you know, you're always at that level, you're always looking for your next opponent. And the thing with The Undertaker is that they just, you know, the fans wouldn't accept just anybody getting in the ring with Undertaker and expecting them to have any chance whatsoever. So when I had met, you know, when I met Glenn, I was like, yeah, this is somebody that I can do a lot of things with down the future or down the road. And, you know, so he had a couple little trial and errors there with different characters until Kane, you know, when Kane was given, it was just like, now this is fun. There's so many different layers to this story, you know, because when I first debuted, not at Survivor Series, but the TVs, I was called Kane, the Undertaker. So now here's Kane, you know, who's going to come, everybody's going to come to find out that it's my half brother that I thought was dead for all these years. And now I'm coming face to face with him after all this time. It was so good. It was, you know, it was so much fun helping develop his character so that it made sense with my character. You know, I mean, this thing's gone on, that storyline's gone on for what, about 23 years now. And it's still, you know, if we're together, people, you know, they lose their minds when the Brothers of Destruction are together. And it's really, really fun.
Yeah, and that's my next question. The storyline of The Undertaker and Kane has gone for 2 decades, over 20 years. Most wrestling feuds don't go for a couple months. What do you think it was about the story of The Undertaker and Kane that kept fans coming back, that kept fans intrigued this whole time?
Well, I think initially it was compelling because, you know, you had this character in The Undertaker that you thought, you know, people had this mythical character that, you know, he's got to be this soul entity. And then to come find out that he's got a half brother. And then you hear that story of what happened in the funeral home. And, you know, and I mean, I won't get into all the details of it, but there's just, you know, wow, that is so compelling. And then after all these years, you know, now he's come back to extract his revenge. And then, you know, we ran through all that. And then it's only natural, like, okay, well, they're brothers. They're going to make up. And now you put them together. You put 2, you know, indestructible forces together as a tag team. What are they going to do to what are they going to do to everybody else? And, you know, obviously we annihilated just about everybody. And it was just like, whoa, because we were so similar in our look and our build. I mean, you know, everyone was just like, well, these guys, they're going to decimate everyone. And, you know, so we took that for a while, and then obviously we're brothers. So we're going to have another falling out, and there's going to be betrayal. And I mean, it's just so good. And it's just one of those rare times in history where a story, it just, you know, with a couple of things happening can flip from, you know, having your best day to your worst day, just like that.
Within the wrestling community, the story of Undertaker and Kane has been widely accepted as the best storytelling wrestling has ever produced. And as you mentioned, all of these different layers in the story when it comes to betrayal and trust and revenge and brothers as a tag team and as enemies. What do you want the fans to remember about this story in 20, 30, 40, 50 years?
I think obviously the longevity of it, you know, how it maintained its interest between generations, you know, whether you were a kid at the beginning of it to being an adult at the end of it, you were still intrigued by what these brothers are going to do. Are they going to, you know, are they going to be together? Are they going to fight? Or, you know, one of the coolest things we ever did was in a Royal Rumble match where we were in there cleaning house together, and then he turned his back on me and I chunked him out, right? You know, it was just like, who does that to their own brother? It's so cool. So I think people, you know, I just want people to remember, you know, just how rich and deep that story was, and how it lasted the test of time, regardless of the era. The Brothers of Destruction went all the way through it, and they were always a compelling part of it.
Let's talk Texas wrestling. Texas has produced some incredible talents over the years. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, Booker T, Mark Henry, and including wrestling families like the Guerreros, the Rhodes family, and the Von Erichs. What do you think it is about Texas that produces incredible wrestling talents?
Well, I mean, Texans are tough, brother. It's just ingrained in them. And, there used to be, what was it? Gosh, I can't think of the school that all those, the generation before mine, they all went to. Brody went to, and I think the Funks, I can't think of the school they all went to, but it was, I don't know. I just think wrestling is so big as culture in Texas that it just spawns, the kids that were fans growing up that's what I want to do. I mean, think about the Von Erichs up in Dallas. I mean, my gosh, were they royalty or what? I mean, obviously, they self-destructed, but I mean, when they were all together, I don't care if you were a wrestling fan or you're not a wrestling fan, you knew who the Von Erichs were. I mean, they were just wrestling royalty in Texas. And, you had such great promoters. And, I remember being a kid thinking, yeah, I think I want to be a wrestler someday. And I kind of, as I got into other sports, I moved away from it. But sure enough, I came back to it. And, and I think probably the same thing for, Steve. He was a wrestling fan as a kid, went and played college football, and he got back into it. I mean, I think it's just instilled in a true Texan. There's some connection with the wrestling industry if you're from Texas.
Before the Brothers of Destruction documentary, you did a 5-part series where you ultimately announced your retirement. But one thing that really stood out to me in that series was a story that you told about a promoter who looked at you and said, no one would ever pay money to watch you wrestle. What advice would you give, not only to young wrestlers, but to people who are chasing their dreams and are told no?
Yeah. And it's not just wrestlers. It's everybody in life. You can't just let someone tell you that. If you have a dream and you put your work into it, and you got to give it your best effort and not worry about the haters, because the world's full of haters, and the world is full of people that are going to tell you you can't do this, you can't do that. I used it, and a lot of people, unfortunately, in this world of social media and people not having to own up for the things that they say, and there's so many bullies out there that want to hate on you and tell you that you can't do something. You got to believe in yourself first and foremost. If you believe in yourself, you can almost accomplish anything. And fortunately for me, I used it as fuel, because I knew that I didn't know that I was going to become the Undertaker and have a career that stretched 3 decades. But I knew that there was a lot more in me than what they were able to see. And I just used that as fuel to make me work harder, study more, figure out what I was doing better. And I think that part applies no matter the time period or where we are with social media or anything else. Is you got to have confidence in yourself, believe in yourself, give yourself a chance, give yourself a chance to fail, and give yourself a chance to succeed. And, don't be afraid to get a door slammed in your face and told the word no. It's going to happen. Accept it, learn what you did wrong, fix it, move on. And I mean, that's just, that's the same advice that I give my kids.
Brothers of Destruction premieres October 29th at the Austin Film Festival. You can catch it again on the WWE Network November 15th. All this information and more you can find on our website, KVUE.com. Undertaker, thank you so much.
Thank you for the time, man. I hope everybody enjoys the documentary.